The Sentry is one of Marvel's most powerful and tragic heroes. His story is as mind-bending as it is heartbreaking. From godlike highs, the Sentry is subjected to devastating misfortune and a tragic fate that will shock you. Hit like and subscribe for more superhero secrets. The Sentry is often considered Marvel's alternative to Superman. Both are connected to the immense power of the sun, but the Sentry's life is an unsettling and disturbing experience, and his tragic fate leads to a horrifying resurrection. Unlike the last son of Krypton, Robert Reynolds wasn't born with powers. An accident turned Bob into the Golden Guardian of Good. In some instances, Bob is a student who develops a friendship with his professor who unknowingly works on a super soldier serum. When Bob is exposed to the serum, he becomes the Sentry. In other versions, Bob is a tormented young man plagued by addiction and self-doubt. He manipulates and steals to achieve his next high. A serum that makes him a superhero. The origin story of the Sentry is uncertain. His creation could be the result of selfish actions. Unfortunately for Bob, his problems only increase with his abilities. Often described as having the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns, he also has an equal amount of torment and villainy to match. The origin of the Sentry not only brings about the world's most powerful hero, but also the world's greatest threat in the form of the Void. For every act of heroism as the Sentry, the malevolent force of the Void performs an equally villainous act. The Sentry's unsettling existence is the knowledge that for every person he saves, another loses their life, suggesting that his very existence is meaningless. The dark shadow of the Void is intrinsically tied to Bob's psyche, making his life an endless battle not just against supervillains, but against himself. While he is capable of incredible feats, the Sentry is also vulnerable and unstable. During the Siege of Asgard, Norman Osborn manipulates the Sentry, pushing him to become unhinged and allowing the Void to take over and rip Ares in half. Bob is forever caught in the middle of the conflict between the Sentry and the Void. A form of mental instability recognized by other heroes who then attempt to control the situation. Doctor Strange subjects Bob to a magic spell that makes him think as a patient in an asylum. The Sentry is feared by others. Bob's professor fits himself with a bomb that activates if he reveals to Bob the full extent of his possible danger. The Sentry represents a normal person turned into a world-ending danger. And what's worse, Bob's blood contains the way to make anyone into the same threat to the world. Life for Bob is a confusing and troubling experience. After a troubled life, the Sentry suffers a sudden and shocking end. The invasion of Knull, the King in Black, cloaks the Earth in the darkness from which the god of symbiotes was created. Iron Man attempts to use a planetary defense system to stop the invasion. And fails. The Avengers and the X-Men oppose the forces of Knull and are consumed with his darkness. Even a Celestial cannot oppose the dark power of the god of symbiotes. Who better to stand against the darkness than the Sentry with his power of 1,000,000 exploding suns? The Sentry is called into action. He flies into battle. Blasting through space into the Earth's atmosphere, he quickly takes out a nullified Celestial. Knull is horrified. One of his most powerful warriors is taken out faster than he could react. The Sentry seizes Knull and lifts him up over the hordes who have inhabited Earth. Something happens. Knull says he knows Bob. The only power that can stand against the Sentry is the Void. And Knull is king of the Void. In a shocking attack, Knull rips the Sentry in half. The Golden Guardian of Good lasted mere seconds against the God of Darkness, who smiles with the horrifying knowledge of his own power. And poor Bob. His power is extinguished by a darkness greater than his own. But superheroes get resurrected, right? They come back, time and time again. And the Sentry comes back. Except not exactly in a way he'd want. It's when Doctor Strange is acting as the Harvestman, the Sorcerer Supreme of Death. An unknown and sinister organization is stealing magic. The investigations of Stephen Strange and his wife Clea lead them to the Blasphemy Cartel. A mysterious group using tormented souls in twisted experiments. When Doctor Strange and Clea confront the Blasphemy Cartel, they unleash their greatest weapon, Reverend Prime. A zombified Sentry controlled by the cartel and turned into a weapon of destruction. For the Sentry, death is no escape. No longer the Golden Guardian, the Sentry returns as a mindless, zombified weapon. A puppet of carnage. The once mighty hero, reduced to a grotesque shadow of himself, is heart-wrenching. The Sentry's resurrection by the Blasphemy Cartel isn't just twisted. It's an insult to everything he stood for. To take someone who had struggled so hard for redemption and turn him into a mindless weapon? It's a tragedy on a whole new level. Especially when Doctor Strange and Clea are forced to release the tormented souls powering his resurrection. The action causes an explosion that obliterates the Blasphemy Cartel and vaporizes the Sentry. The Sentry appears to be the golden hero of the Marvel Universe, but his existence is anything but straightforward. His journey reminds us that even the most powerful among us face inner demons. While his story is steeped in tragedy, it's also testament to the resilience of the human spirit. The Sentry's enduring legacy as a symbol of hope and despair ensures that he will remain one of Marvel's most unforgettable characters. What do you think? With Bob's arrival in the Thunderbolts movie, do you think the Sentry will return to comics? And if so, how? Will Bob still be connected to the Void? Will the heroes of Earth still fear him? Thanks for joining us to the end. Leave a comment and tell us what you think.